Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and in our case, rather good evening as we are in Europe here. These are quite special times, quite difficult times maybe for a lot of us. So I want to kick this off with a quote from famous writer Oscar Wilde, who said, "Everything is going to be fine in the end. If it's not fine, it's not the end." So I hope you understand my kind of self-critical irony if I say this applies a little bit also to our business. And it might also apply to our today's webinar, which, as we are in the beginning, is not yet at its end. But I do hope that in the end, you will say it was fine. Having said that, again, ladies and gentlemen, also from my side, a warm welcome. And I want to shortly introduce myself. So my full name is Hans-Dieter Huber. It might be easier for you to refer to me as Hansi or Hansi. And I'm your host today. So what is this webinar about? The target audience of this webinar are consultants. So our highly esteemed IBP consulting community. So experts like you who are interested in IBP response to supply, which is also known as order-based planning. Some of you might have attended one of the testing and training workshops in Waldorf or virtually in the last years. This is where this picture comes from. And you might guess this picture is not from last year. Last year, the event was only virtually. So it is from 2019. But last year we met and we had a very successful and very good and very appreciated 2 weeks partner testing and training workshop. We had promised to meet again in this audience together with our consulting partners worldwide. And here we are. So this is what this webinar is about. I want to quickly rush you through the agenda. So we are in the introduction. I hope I can make it very fast. We have a lot of things to tell you, and we will certainly take the full 120 minutes. I want to shortly introduce the SAP presenters, and then I will hand over to Bülent Aken, who will focus on synchronized production planning. This will occupy about 70% of today's webinar. Bülent, with our help, will have Q&A at the end of every section. So you can ask your questions by the Q&A button that you see in the Zoom on the bottom. Please do not use the chat, use the Q&A. And then we have chat supports. I will introduce you then and tell you the names on the next slide. And we will then, chat supports, we will answer your questions. And as said, at the end of each section, we can also free the line and you can ask your questions by using the audio function over the line. After Bülent's slot on synchronized production planning, I will give you a short presentation of our recent and also future developments. Here the same, you can ask questions and then we can interrupt to have also Q&A, answer unanswered questions from the Q&A and then also discuss over the line. I can only encourage you to ask questions as much as you want. Having said that, I present shortly the persons who work for you today. So, as said, on the right, that's me. On the left, that is Bülent. We are both from product management, and we have as chat supports from development directly Christoph Albrecht, Ilmi Kunze, Siegfried Rausch, Caroline Wittmann, and Brian Nelson. showing you the mandatory disclaimer, I want to hand over by that to my colleague Bülent. Bülent, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Hansi. Thank you for this introduction. I'm happy to present you today the 2008 and 2011 version of synchronized planning. Synchronized planning is the part of the IBP response and supply application that deals with the integration to PPDS. So what we are doing here, yes, please.
You're not sharing.
Not yet sharing. Yes, I know. The synchronized planning is the application part that deals with the integration to PPDS, and this will be the topic today. We have provided 2008 version of the initial solution to that, and this will be about the presentation, which I'm now about to share. Please. All right. Production planning integration is embedded into the wider topic of synchronized planning. We have to look at this like the rings of a tree or the rings of an onion. So the production planning integration part is the core process integration part of it. The mechanics of a plant order, where it starts as a rough cut plant order, becomes a detailed plant order, finally a production order, and in the end stock. So this will be about the process of the life cycle of a plant order, which goes across 3 different systems: IBP, response and supply, or order-based planning, S4 HANA, and PPDS within S4 HANA. This is our topic today. I will start with an integration what this is really about, but the biggest part of my presentation will be about a demo to show you the end-to-end process of synchronized planning. And if time is left, I will also refer to some future developments and tell you more about the synchronized part, because as I told you, like the rings of a tree, the more we grow, we will get more to a one system feel of both of the 3 systems, and there will be topics like common shared UI across both all systems, which we call Planner's Workspace. So let's start with the solution. What we have implemented so far with 2011, 2008, and some minor improvements in 2011 is visible in 2 videos, and I recommend to you that you also view these videos after this presentation, and you can also share them with your customers. And also, please don't be afraid of missing something in this presentation. Just lean back and relax. All the slides that I'm presenting you today are you can find them, all the information you can find them here in this other source of information, which is the first slide or the first of the 2 slides in the presentation that we send out to you. So be aware that a lot of things are described in release notes. So there is one release note of the 2011 version of IBP, 29.33.868. This one basically tells you that although there is technically an integration of PPDS and IBP in an S4 system, this connection is subject to restrictions. So process integration is not only supported to the features that we have developed so far. So the features are described in our synchronized planning solution, and which the features and integration scenarios available, and for which you can expect support of a PPDS and IBP solution. These are specifically described in a very extensive note 29.71.444 production planning integration in SAP IBP order-based planning. Also in this very extensive release note or restriction note, you will find the very same slides attached as a PDF, so you have the full information. Today, I'm going to show you the end-to-end process slide by slide, or on the system, but all these slides will be presented end-to-end in this presentation attached to the release note in a process flow, exact process flow end-to-end. And at the end of this document, you will also see there is a setup instruction for synchronized planning, production planning integration. And this is the long version, and the overview of all these documentation you can find in the sub-help, and the sub-help path is under business applications, order-based planning, production planning integration. All right, let's go on and go into a theory a bit. So as I told you initially, this is about integrating IBP order-based planning or response and supply with PPDS. More specifically about integrating PPDS embedded into an S/4HANA system. You see different colors. Yellow is the color that we will use in this presentation for IBP. And blue is the color that we will use for S/4HANA and PPDS. There are two processes that are connected here. Operational supply planning, meaning the end-to-end supply chain planning, horizontal, with a horizontal approach, not location specific, as opposed to the detailed planning and scheduling, embedded into an overall operational plan across multiple plants, but focusing in a specific plan and planning production in a local plant in more detail. This is the part of PPDS. If you go to the details, the latter part, the left part, the operational supply planning, the horizontal planning is also referred to as network-centric planning. Network, that reminds you of the word supply network planning. The previous application, the predecessor of IBP order-based planning, is APO supply network planning. This is where where all the knowledge of the integration comes from. So customers who previously had supply network planning plus PPDS on an APO system, they will finally hopefully prefer to use IBP order-based planning and S/4HANA PPDS in combination, like they used SNP and PPDS in combination. This combination will be a bit different, a bit more improved, and based on a different architecture. But basically, the principles of integration are the same, with some changes and improvements. But here we see also that in rough cut planning, in network-centric planning, we have a bigger scope. That's why the planning is more rough cut. It has daily accuracy on the capacities at least. It is at location material level, whereas the PPDS is more on a location material and activity level, a more detailed order model, time continuous capacity consumption, and much more in detail and focused on a single plant. It's important also to see, if you combine the capabilities of two applications, what is the purpose of the respective application. So the purpose or the goals, better say the goals of operational supply planning, or IBP. This process is aimed at utilizing the global supply network capacity, consider global restrictions, global capabilities, make a balanced use across the network of capacities, and also globally prioritize demand and achieve profitability across the network. Whereas PPDS is the last mile of optimization locally, based on an overall embedded plan with left and right hand restrictions imposed by order-based planning. You further optimize your detailed schedule or your local production plan in PPDS. Besides creating an optimized, more optimized local plan, it is also important to have a feasible plan in PPDS. So whatever PPDS produces must be feasible, because the goal of PPDS and the very advantage of PPDS is to create production orders in the end, which are executable right from the start. So when you create a plant order, when you convert a plant order planned in PPDS and you convert it into production order, it should be feasible right away. That's why PPDS also checks, for example, available component availability and this kind of things. So PPDS aims not at optimizing local production and feasibility of a product order. So this also leads to differences in system and application design and master data modeling differences. So IBP has basic date scheduling and so the plans generated by IBP have daily accuracy. They consume bucket resources. They have a rough cut order model with less or only one single activity. And when we look at PPDS, we have a lead time scaling activity by activity. Critical resources are loaded with a very refined production version that is being used in PPDS. And also there are things in PPDS that you cannot do in order-based planning. For example, production sequencing with a setup matrix is something that IBP doesn't offer, but PPDS does offer it. And this is also a feature that you can optimize your production on the last mile to the optimum and bring maximum better utilization in the local planning in PPDS. So
just a quick one.
yes,
Julian?
Go ahead.
Maybe you stop your camera for having a better connection.
All right. Let me stop my video.
And I see there are already the first questions in the Q&A.
I'll be at the end, just in a minute. At the section, I want to come to the Q&A. So so the benefits of all of this together is the combined benefits of IBP and PPDS. IBP in comparison to SAP APO offers you a web-based interface and an Excel-based user interface for daily bucketed planning. It offers very extensive analytical functions like supply usage and gating factors. It is like SNP built for order-based backend integration. It supports horizontal integration across the network, and this will be thanks the integration project that we are doing, or also more and more platform independent. So what we do here does not only aim at integrating PPDS, but all kinds of backend systems via the IBP and via the ERP backend. So and the supply chain control tower functionality is also more rich than we would have it in APO. Last but not least, think also of further aggregating the IBP order-based data to a rough cut SNOP planning level. So in the end, you will have a full horizontal integration from the bottom, from the PPDS level to across IBP order-based planning up to the time series analysis. And whereas we don't compromise on the optimization flexibility capabilities that we have as S/4HANA PPDS. Here we have 20 years market leadership, fully fledged and very extensive industry-specific scenarios implemented out there in the field. Customers will be able to reuse them when they come from APO to S/4HANA, and S/4HANA is also S/4HANA PPDS has huge investments ahead, so the product will be developed further and get more and more features as opposed to the last few years. So this is the combined benefits. And before I go to the specific synchronized planning features, I would like to ask whether you have questions to the theory part. So are there any questions?
If you want to ask questions over the line, please push the raise hand button, and then we can unmute your line. Okay, then let's move on.
So maybe you grasped the question. You could ask it maybe orally. If Hansi.
Yeah, we move on. There was only an organization.
Okay. I was on an organizational question. Okay, yeah. So let me now describe you more in detail how this looks like. The very first release that we combine IBP order-based planning with PPDS. And I will do this part of the presentation as much as I can based on the system. So there is a slide deck which shows you the screenshots exactly one after the other, so you can recall this presentation, the demo yourself, but I will only show a few of these slides right now and go directly into the system. So to start with, please memorize 4 new fields in IBP order-based planning to understand how synchronized planning really works like. I would like to ask you to memorize 2 new fields on the location material and 2 new fields on the planned order. In the location material, we have added a field that we call production planning integration mode. And if you look at it, it's something like an MRP type that you're used to from S4HANA. So it describes how this product behaves in the integration. And this is a very basic, very fundamental field, because it does not only control the behavior of a location product in the integration scenario, it also speaks for the integration scenario itself. So we document our scenarios by production planning integration mode. If you say detailed scheduling delegated, this is at the same time a scenario that you will find described explicitly in our restriction note documents in the PDF, big PDF I mentioned earlier. So what we say is working will be expressed in terms of scenarios codified by the production planning integration mode, and all the restrictions also will be specified by the number of the production planning integration mode. The values of this are no detailed planning and scheduling. This is basically the legacy scenario. Then we have introduced a very first new scenario, which we call detailed scheduling delegated. And this detailed scheduling delegated, as I show you later on more in detail, is a scenario that describes the division of labor between IBP and PPDS. And this division of labor or ownership model says that IBP does the MRP part and PPDS does the detailed sequencing part. So detailed scheduling and sequencing part is done in PPDS, and planning is done in IBP. At the same time, this says PPDS is not allowed to do the PP part. So all the PP heuristics that most of you would know in PPDS should not be used in this scenario, because the MRP part is completely owned by IBP. Now, is this the end of our functionality? No, we will offer release by release. We will offer more and more scenarios. The next scenario that we will offer here, for example, with the 2108 probably and hopefully, is the integration mode 3. And this mode will allow PPDS to plan in the short term and allow IBP to allow in the long term, and allow PPDS also to do the detailed scheduling, as of course. And so more and more scenarios will be available with each version of IBP. Now come to the second attribute. The second attribute is called detailed planning and scheduling horizon. And this is a horizon in days. Those who know APO, SNP, and PPDS remember that there was an SNP horizon, that there was a PPDS horizon, and this horizon is something in between. It more depicts the SNP horizon, but I can explain the mechanics of this horizon later in the presentation. Then please memorize two new attributes of the plant order. The plant order has gotten stages. Those who remember APO solution again might remember that there were so-called ATP categories in plant orders, and in APO we had also two ATP categories for plant orders: rough cut and detailed. It was possible to make this separation, and here at IBP we also have such kind of approach. Rough cut or SNP level plant orders are now called operational supply planning results, and short OSP. And the plant orders that are already in PPDS, planned by PPDS in detail, they have gotten the name DPS, detailed planning and scheduling stage. So we have two stages, and we can make now a distinction between the petrification level of IBP of plant orders. So the harder, the more specific an order is, the more executional it is. So the first, the fluffiest, the weakest plant order is the IBP plant order, the operational supply plant order. Then comes the more fortified DPS plant order, and finally the DPS plant order is converted into a production order before it becomes stock. So this is the production planning stage, so a subdivision of plant orders. And next, the last attribute I would like to memorize is the DPS handover time. The DPS handover time is a time in days and seconds, which is calculated during the IBP order-based planning run. And as I will explain later in more detail, it is a time shift from the plant order. There is a time shift from the plant order end date by the detailed planning and scheduling horizon. And this time that we calculate here is used to trigger the switch from an operational supply plan to the stage of the detailed planning and scheduling. So we will also, like in SNP and PPDS, we will have a SNP to PPDS release heuristic, which we call handover process. And this handover process from OSP to DPS is controlled by the DPS handover time, as we will see later on. And now let's go to the first try in the system. I would like to show you these attributes now in the system. Is the system visible right now? Hello?
It looks good. Yeah, looks good.
Okay, thank you. So so let me go to the view location materials in an IBP system. This is a 2105 development system right now, and here it also includes all the features that we have developed with 2011. And here you see the location materials, and you see the new attributes. So the production planning integration mode. So most of the materials I selected here are no detailed planning and scheduling, which is the default scenario. Then we have one single material that is called detailed scheduling delegated. So this is the PPM 1, and the others are the PPM 0. And then there is the DPS horizon as a new field. For those materials, no detailed planning and scheduling, it is not maintained, but for the scenario, it is mandatory to have, or required to have, this DPS horizon. And this DPS horizon here in this example has the number of 28 days. So something happens, and basically this is detailed PPDS planning within the horizon of 28 days. And beyond this horizon, we understand that this is rough cut planning. So detailed scheduling delegated in combination with a DPS horizon is the master data setting that we use for a finish. So I have multiple components here, and then a finished good, the phone A in my example. And here I've chosen to only assign the scenario PPIM1, integration mode 1, detailed scheduling delegate for this finished goods level. And all the components have the basic or the legacy scenario integration mode, which depicts one. So one thing, please understand, this is a scenario, and the detailed scheduling delegated scenario most fits to something like we would understand as a master production scheduling scenario, an NMPS scenario, where only very, very selected articles at critical stages in a multi-level supply chain are planned in very much detail. So in this example, I have chosen to have this level to be the finished goods level. You could also think of main component level, which would be the bulk phone rather than the finished goods level. You could also choose to have this very critical level, the bulk phone, the phone production, where you have some kind of a decoupling point of production, and which needs to be calculated or scheduled very much in detail, fully utilizing assembly capacity, for example. This could be an option also to have detailed scheduling delegated assigned to bulk phone rather than the phone A. It's a scenario decision here. So I have decided to have PPM1 for the finished goods, and also here DPS horizon and production freeze horizon are in a relationship to each other. So the production freeze horizon, as you know, is a horizon within which IBP does not create plant orders, and DPS horizon is an extension of the production freeze horizon. So you can choose by a planning run profile to apply this or the other one. So you can apply the production freeze horizon or the DPS horizon, and by switching constraints in the planning run profile, by likewise applying DPS horizon or production freeze horizon to your plans, you can protect or not protect the detailed schedule from overrides through IBP. And I think this will be shown later on in the presentation. Just heads up here to remember this. There is something to come with that. I will show that later more in detail. So, and then let me show you also the plan order attributes. So the plan order attributes can be viewed in the view projected stock application. In the view projected stock application, you see the so-called production planning stage as a column, and the DPS handover time as a column. But you can also easily see that there is no supplies, no plan orders. So these fields are not filled for any supply element. We only have demand. We have 3 sales orders on different days in our example, in our initial situation. And in our initial situation, these sales orders are not fulfilled. And in my scenario, the sales orders directly are placed at the plant, not in the DCs, to have a better example or an easier example to explain today. So directly at the plant, I have the sales orders. I have no plan yet. So let me do a planning first before I continue to explain further topics. So here I choose to create a run and create a run. I order confirmation run because I want to create supplies for the 3 sales orders. And just keep in mind that I use a planning run profile which only activates the production planning horizon. production horizon. So I let that run before I move on. I go back to the view projected stock. Here we still have the initial situation. The planning run has not completed yet, so we still don't see the plant orders. But I would like to bring your attention to the. So we see already the production freeze horizon at the 7th day from now, and we also have the new detailed planning and scheduling horizon at 28 days from now. So this is the new this is a new entry that comes with synchronized planning. If you have planned a detailed planning and scheduling horizon other than 0, this will be visible here. And you see that we assume that the detailed planning and scheduling horizon should be longer than the production freeze horizon, and this is a time range of 3 weeks in our example, in which the detailed planning and scheduling results that PPDS will provide for us later on can be protected by upcoming IBP runs, because IBP runs will have a daily frequency, and every day you run into the risk of overwriting your PPDS plans. But we will effectively protect that, prevent that from happening. So there is a trade-off here to protect PPDS plans as opposed to react to market demand, changes in market demand. So if you have more short-term sales orders, you would like to react on them that are within the detailed planning and scheduling horizon. But on the other hand, you would like to protect your production plan. This is a trade-off, and this trade-off you can handle with the frequency of running 2 different plans. For example, you could say I have a run on Sundays, a weekly run on Sundays, where I destroy my PPDS detailed schedule in this day 7 to 28. And then I schedule daily weekday runs, which protect the detailed planning and scheduling horizon, so my DPS results will not be changed. And at the end of the scenario, I will also prove you that that happens. Now let's go back to the planning application jobs. The job should be completed by now. It is not yet completed. Now it's completed. I go back to the detailed scheduling, to the planning view, and I go to my product, and I just see that plant orders, that supply now has been created. Oh no, I did the wrong. I guess the wrong planning run profile. So you see the short-term horizon was protected. Let me see. No, actually, it was not protected. Now here we have the plan orders. So the plan orders have been created with temporary numbers. As you can see, the outbound integration of IBP has not run yet. So we have temporary plan orders, and these plan orders that IBP has generated are in the first stage of a plan order, which is the operational supply planning stage. So you can see three sales orders, 3 plan orders, and all of them are in the operational supply planning stage. And all of them have gotten now a DPS and overtime calculated by the planning run, and the planning run is also has calculated them as, if you look at it, March 3rd minus 28 days equal to January 1st. So the DPS and overtime is planned order time minus 28 days in each of these cases. So what does this tell us to you? So this will make a difference. The DPS handover time will make a difference. So we have some plan orders which are some DPS handover date times which are in the past, like 5th or 6th of January, and some which are in the future. And this will make the difference when we later try to hand over PPDS plan orders, IBP plan orders into PPDS plan orders. All right, so let me now start an outbound integration run to send this planning result to S/4HANA and PPDS. I do an order confirmation run. I'm sorry, I do a integration run. Yes, integration run. And I move on. I use an Open API version 2008 minimum. And for the inbound integration also, I use Open API version, which is higher than 2008. This is the Open API version that supports synchronized planning. So the interfaces had to be adapted for this solution. So let me run the integration and then go back to projected stock. I expect now after the integration that the plant orders will get an official number from IBP S/4HANA, and the T numbers will disappear. Okay, so this is the initial steps of planning, which you all know already from IBP standard behavior. So nothing different yet. Let me go back to the presentation and some more theory, and then we fully go to the presentation. Okay, so so you have seen already that we have two integration modes, so no detailed planning and scheduling, and detailed scheduling delegated. The detailed scheduling delegated is the one that supports synchronized planning. The no detailed scheduling is the legacy scenario that will work for existing customers, and it doesn't support synchronized planning. It works in the old system and landscape that you know. So no specific system requirements, but with detailed scheduling, we delegated, we have system requirements. So the standard process is also only enabled for SAP S/4HANA. And we have also a file-based integration, and we can integrate to S/4HANA without actually using PPDS if you want to schedule the IBP PPDS plant orders manually rather than using PPDS. So the system will not even break if you don't have the advanced planning flag and PPDS not activated. And just compare the processes, because this will be important for this process ahead of us. So this is the process for the production planning, legacy production and planning integration mode 0 with no synchronized planning integration. This is, as you know, we have an operational supply plan. We integrate with S/4HANA. We manually change plant orders in S/4HANA, convert them in production orders, and get production orders or stock situation back into IBP, and then do the next planning circle. This is the planning cycle that you already know from IBP in SDI-based integration. With the integration mode 1, the process steps will be much more elaborated now. So we send the IBP plan to S/4HANA. This S/4HANA has PPDS. PPDS is activated in light blue with the so-called advanced planning flag in the material master of S/4HANA. And then not only the MDO4 will see the IBP plans, but also the S4 PPDS RRP3 transaction. And in this SAP PPDS transaction, I will show now system. I will show as next step that we will have a handover procedure from OSP plant orders to DPS stage plant orders. Then we will do some manual planning in PPDS and show you that these plant orders are now converted from PPDS rather than PP into production orders. and all the results of the detailed planning plus production orders are then back integrated to IBP for the next planning cycle. And the next planning cycle, I will show you that the IBP planning run will run with a different horizon parameter. It will be the DPS horizon rather the production freeze horizon, which protects the short term. So we will be able to protect all the planning results that we have created in DPS. All right, so this was one of my last slides, and now I will fully go back to the system. And before I do so, let us take the opportunity to have questions so far. Have you got questions so far? We can have a quick Q&A now.
Ilmi, we don't have questions in the Q&A that we did not yet answer, right? Ilmi, can you hear us? Then I will summarize, just highlight some of them. There was questions regarding the master data, so where these new fields for the material location are maintained. So we have the IBP add-on, which is a software layer on top of S4, and they are
everybody knows
maintained there. We can show that here. So this is the S4 system. Bülent is pointing to it directly. So they are not maintained in IBP in the cloud itself. No, they are maintained in the S4 backend system and then inbound integrated into IBP. That was one of the questions. I don't know, Sigrid or Ilmi, you want to highlight other questions?
Yeah, there was one more question, which was not really satisfied answered. Maybe Bülent, you know that in production planning, in PPS, we have the production optimizer, and the question was how you could compare that with the functionalities in order based planning.
It's called the production planning optimizer, the PPO.
In S4.
PPO. Okay. This is a very good question, actually. Okay. You have many options, colleagues. You have many options. We have different optimizers or algorithms in different systems. And this is because our customers want to have different solution environments. So there are many customers out there who do their entire supply chain planning in PPDS because they're used to. Even in a big company like I was consulting for, or I was working with in the past, you have different business units having different solutions, preferring different solutions. So I worked for a company which used SNP for network optimization, but the other business units completely stayed in PPDS, did not use the SMP plus PPDS solution. So this kind of preferencing will go on, and some customers will say, okay, I want to use maybe IBP time series, but I would like to avoid or omit order-based planning, and I will do my network optimization in or my production planning optimization, my MRP in PPDS directly. So I'm a complete plant planning, my MRP in the plant and shall be done in an optimized way in PPDS. So, and therefore I have the new PPO capabilities. So be it then dear customer, use that one. We will have new integration modes upcoming, which IBP will still integrate with those materials, but we will prevent IBP from planning these materials that are planned with PPO. So we will be able to integrate them into IBP, order-based planning, and then furthermore aggregating these results to time series because we have the synchronized planning interfaces. But we know that this material is planned in PPDS, and PPDS has the planning authorization for this material. Then IBP will know, okay, I will not touch that. I will have planning protection. I will not include these materials into my planning runs. So, and I will treat them as fixed supply. And thus, it will, from IBP point of view, with the fully fledged list of PPIMs or production planning integration modes, we aim at being prepared for every choice below the IBP surface.
Good. Then
there was one more question, which was in regards to shelf life constraints, which is available at the moment only in the shelf life heuristics and stock propagation heuristic of time series based planning. It seemingly has been disappeared from the roadmap explorer, but this roadmap explorer will be updated after the release upgrade, so be a bit patient. It is still in the directional update, and it is based on the first. This is one of the shelf life planning is one of the first use cases out of this characteristic based planning that is still on the roadmap. It's just not displayed properly.
Yeah,
I think that's a major question.
It's not mentioned explicitly. It's part of an overall big development. That's the way I would word it.
Okay, then
let's move on.
Yes, let's move on. So it's good already to be in S/4HANA already. So here I go to the MDO4, because the stuff that we send to IBP goes to the X tables, so-called X tables of SDI integration, and then it goes to the plus table of S4HANA, the plant orders. And let me go to one of my materials, which I had planned for. And you see here the plant orders now. They have been sent to IBP, to S4HANA, and they have gotten the plant order numbers, and they have gotten a specific plant order type. Nobody knows yet what this X stands for. Usually, if you see plant orders in S4HANA, you see STCK, stock plant orders, and now we have introduced a new type of plant orders. Now, if you are in a scenario PPIM1, we do not export our plant orders as stock orders, we export them as external plant orders. And the difference is that this application plant order type is not enabled for change whatsoever in S4HANA. You cannot change it. You cannot change anything here. There is no change possibility. We have completely prevented changes to the plant order here, and it also doesn't have a conversion indicator, meaning that you have to go through PPDS, hand over to this plant order to PPDS before you can turn it into a production or a process order. That's the reason why it has no conversion indicator, and it's external. You cannot do anything. It is not possible to change it. Okay, although I'm in change mode, it cannot be changed. Okay, these plant orders, and also look at the material that was integrated with PPDS. This is my other material. This is actually integrated with PPDS. The material in the plant FA1 is not integrated with PPDS. Also here I see for the three plant orders, sales orders, I have 3 plant orders, and they have gotten the external plant order type. So, and then go back to synchronized planning, to IBP, and see, just do a refresh to see now that the temporary plant order numbers have been key completed based on what IBP S4HANA has given. So the plant orders are 21 through 23. And if I go to S4HANA, 21 through 23. So the keys are completed, the systems are integrated. Now I can move on with PPDS. The PLAF table is then replicated into PPDS. And in PPDS, I will see now the following picture. Okay, here I see, instead of the X, I see an X. So the the plan orders that are sent with OSB type in this scenario have got an X, which stands for external plan order rough cut. Rough cut indicates this comes from IBP. Here, these plan orders are rough cut, and here in PPDS, they are also not. It's not possible to change them. I'll click on one of them, and I look at the. I try to change anything. It is not possible. These plan orders are somewhat strange in PPDS. They don't have activities. They don't have supply sources, no production versions assigned to them. So they are only a default activity with a start and end date and a quantity, output quantity and the component demand attached to that, not more. So as there is no supply source, PPDS will not be able to see them on its critical resources. These are far out plan orders, usually beyond the DPS horizon. They are visible as something which is in the tunnel, but in the pipeline, but as something which you cannot use yet in PPDS. What do you do in order to use these plant orders in PPDS, in order to affect them, in order to change them? You have to convert them or to hand over them, this is our technical expression, into PPDS plant orders. Well, how do you do that? You can do that directly in the product view of PPDS. You can go into the change mode. You can mark these materials, and then you can go into the variable heuristic. My default heuristic is the handover run for these articles, and you can select from options. You can hand over all due external plan orders. Due means their handover date is in the past, so they have to be converted or handed over. You can hand over only the selected ones, which I will choose now, or you can delete them. This is the only way you can touch these external plan orders. So let me execute that one. The handover plan orders heuristic has been executed in PPDS. I go back to my product view, and now I see the change. So now the plan order is enabled for change. And now the plan order has been rescheduled according to PPDS resources. And now it's got a supply source. It's a PPDS PDS. And now it is scheduled on operation on resources according to the operations modeled in the PDS. Now we have a fully fledged PPDS plan order, and this plan order can now be attached by changed by PPDS. And you can also do this heuristic in a job run, and you can, as an option, also have a report to mass or hand over these plan orders. Now, in this example, please keep in mind that the third plan order was beyond the DPS horizon. We do not expect this one, the 23, to be part of any handover, but we expect this 22 one to be part of a handover, and the 21 is already handed over. Let me go to the handover report to show how it looks like there, to mass hand over to these plan orders. I go to the transaction SC38, just to call the report, select my two materials, and I have the same material in two different plants. One of the plants has PPDS, the other one does not have PPDS. Both plants have chosen integration mode 1 for their plant for their production, but FA1 does, let's say, does the detailed scheduling on Excel. They uploaded changed plan orders, detailed plan scheduled plan orders, and the FA71 uses PPDS. And now, what's the difference? Let's go on and just do a handover in simulation mode. You see, we expect that the FA71, we expected to have, we had two plan orders originally within the DPS horizon. the 21 had been already handed over. The remainder was 22. It has got the order type LX, and it's now to be handed over by advanced planning by PPDS. And the other material, the other plant does not have PPDS. It also has this LX type because the plan order type production planning integration mode is LX. And it is two outstanding to be handed over plant orders. Why they are to be handed over? Because the DPS handover time is in the past. It's the 5th and 6th of January is in the past. So the system knows, hey, I have to hand them over. And now this was the simulation mode. Let's take away the simulation flag and just execute it. They are all handed over, and if you repeat that exercise, you see that they're gone. Now, if I go back to MDO4 for my plant, which is not integrated with S4HANA with PPDS, the plant 71 is plant 1, which my stock requirements list. I want to go to plant FA1. FA1. All right, so 2 of the plant orders have been turned from external to stock. They have been handed over. This is the S4HANA plant detailed planning products, and for the others, for the plant 71, which officially uses PPDS, I go to the product view. And here I can go to the product view again and do my detailed scheduling as the next step. I see that also the 22 has been handed over and is enabled for change. Other questions so far?
Ilmi, we could maybe take some of the questions here, right? It's progressing in the Q&A.
You want to go ahead?
For instance, there was questions from Chris Curtis saying, so the OSP plant orders cover one single day in PPDS, in brackets similar to S&P orders used to be. It is not scheduled, and Secret and Ilmi, they answered so that the IBP does bucket scheduling on a daily basis. So OSP orders in PPDS are not scheduled, and as you, Bülent, have shown, you cannot schedule them because there is no source of supply. And Ilmi said you can have more than one per day, but once they move into the DPS horizon, then PPDS, of course, takes over the detailed scheduling.
So maybe let me correct that one. So this is a generic IBP order-based planning thing, not synchronized planning specific, but IBP order-based planning is actually creates potentially more than one plant order per day. Imagine a situation where you have an insufficient company. So just let me show that in the system in interactive planning mode. Imagine I want to create manually another plan order on the same day. I can do that. Plan order, and I want to create it on the same day, 17th. I want to create 7 pieces, and I want to create it on the 17th of February. I can do that.
Yeah, that's what I wrote. You can have more than one per day. And what you're seeing here is a new functionality that comes with 2102 that you can interactively add new planned order, stock transfer order, purchase requisition. That is a 2102 feature.
Yes,
absolutely. And thank you, colleagues, for doing my work. So I have to show that.
Yes. So this is happening. While this is happening, I just go on. Other questions? So here you see 17th. Where is it? Here. On 17th, I should have 2. Here. I did the wrong date somehow.
Yeah, you
here,
see
the blue one. the blue one is a temporary order. It's created. Okay, and so now I have to change. I have to change the date. Somehow I typed in a wrong date. Actually, let me also change that. 17th of November 21. Maybe I had the wrong day. Okay, here it will take a while. All right, so it's on the 17th now. So you see, you have two planned orders, and one is planned at 8 o'clock, and the other one is planned at 0 o'clock. So this is possible.
So just to add, what you see at the moment is a simulation in a preliminary version. So
yes,
Julian has now the choice either to reject that or to save that. So this is not yet.
And I will reject it, not to spoil my example. So I discard that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. And now I move on in the story. If there are no questions.
Yeah, there's just one new question, which is pretty nice, just popped up, which you can directly answer. Then we don't need to type. How would a stock transfer process look like between a plant using PPDS and a plant not using PPDS? It is my experience that PPDS does not see the stock transfer when the product is not planned in both the supplying plant and the receiving plant in PPDS. This seems
this is a very good question. Thank you for that one.
I knew you would love it.
this is one of the integration modes ahead. Previously, I gave the answer that we will have display-only materials in IBP, which are planned in S/4HANA or PPDS, and there is also the other way around. So if the DC plans a product, but PPDS is not in charge of planning the DC, only IBP is in charge of planning the DC, then we will have also in future a view-only mode in PPDS. Currently, PPDS is a system that thinks it has to plan something which is integrated. In future, PPDS will learn to restrict itself. So it will see some products which are for planning, but they can be in display-only mode. And this is a feature that will come probably, hopefully soon. I hope that will be available with one of the next releases, and then we will build on that and say, okay, there are also integration modes with IBP which we consume from PPDS. We will have a multi-value advanced planning flag, which also has the possibility to integrate with PPDS in the display-only mode, and then you can integrate the stock transfers of a DC, and then the stock transfer demand will be visible in the plant. And if the stock transfer demand is visible in the plant, you will have the primary demand for the plant to move on and apply supplies against that. And then your scenario will work, which did not before. Thank you for that question. Okay, so these are our plans, and they are not implemented yet, but this is what you can fairly expect to come in future. Okay, so let's go on if no questions are left.
Yeah, let's go on. 20 minutes left. 20 minutes left.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes. Okay, then I will hurry up a bit. I would like to do two things now. I would like to do how the detailed planner and scheduler works in PPDS. So let's the detailed planner and schedule do a split on an existing plan order. Let me reduce this plan order quantity to 5. And just unfix it. And then let me, because it's a split example, I create a planned order on the very same day at the very same time in the same quantity. So I have split this planned order by 2. One of the planned order is fixed, one of the planned order is not fixed. And let me create excess planned orders manually created in PPDS outside the DPS horizon, which is also possible on the 18th of November of February 2021. Let me create 17 o'clock 5 additional pieces. And again, let me create 5 additional pieces on the very same day, so I can show you later on how to detail schedule in PPDS manually. Okay, so these plan orders are generated, and let me unfix one of these plan orders, which will be important later on. Just memorize, please, that what I've done now is within the DPS horizon, I have split a plan order, one of them being non-fixed, and outside the DPS horizon, in very far future, in February, I have created another set of 2 plan orders, one of them not being fixed. And I expect if I run the IBP run later on, then one of these plan orders will be deleted because the protection of the DPS horizon does not reach that far. So only this one will be surviving after a next planning run in IBP. I will show you that later on. Now, let me do some detailed scheduling now. So let me the context of that and go to the detailed scheduling board. And let me find my resource, which was the finishing line, expand multiple loading, go to the first graphical object. Here I see I have the 2 plan orders on top of each other. Let me create a feasible plan, backward schedule it to, so the 2 plan orders are not on top of each other. Remember, outside in February, I created another set of 2 plan orders on top of each other. I go there to the 18th of February, also select that one of these plan orders, and do a reschedule. And now this is also a feasible plan. Let me go back and show that on the view projected stock. So these plan orders are on the same day, but not on the same time now. This is a feasible plan. I have preponed one of these plan orders by rescheduling them backwards. And now I can save that. I have a feasible plan. If I wish to, in PPDS, I could also convert these plan orders now into production, which I do not know for the sake of the example, and then save that and just check that I have the same in MDO4. SIF has worked. I have the same result in MDO4. Yes, these are my plan orders in MDO4. And now I can say, go and say I integrate these plan orders. Let me run an integration job. Just copy that one. And do a full integration. And continue to explain things now a bit or in the system. So what I will, so here in IBP in S4HANA, I'm finished. I have planned fully. Just remember, memorize the planning situation. Memorize the planning situation. I have 3 sales orders. One of the sales orders is covered by a plan order which was split into 2 pieces. One of the plan orders was fixed, and outside of the DPS horizon, I have created 2 excess plan orders. Again, one of them fixed, one of them not fixed. And let me go back now to IBP. In some few minutes, the SDI run will be completed, and I will be expecting the incoming of the detailed planning result. In analyze supply usage, I could, before this is completed, I could go and see the previous situation before I integrated with IBP. with PPDS. This is the state now, which I had already sent to PPDS. Remember, we had created plan orders in operational supply planning. In the meantime, handover has taken place and has been integrated, but I don't see the split and the detail scaling that I have done. But what I can already see here is if I go back to the view projected stock and do a refresh, I can see that the detailed scaling and planning plan orders have a different time, because the minute that you create the DTPS plan orders, they are scheduled on DPS resources. So here you see in the example, actually the integration is already there. So here you see that the plan orders that are already in DPS, they have very exact times. Okay, 17 o'clock, whereas the operational supply planning is a corner time. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, and here you see PPDS has scheduled them day before at the end of the shift. And here you see also the integration is already there. The two plant orders, one of them fixed, one of them not fixed, one of them created an IBP in PPDS externally. How do I see that? I see that one of these plant orders, DPS plant orders, does not have a DPS handover time. Because it has never been in IBP so far, so it has not had a DPS handover time. So this is how I see that this is an externally created plan order. Here out there in the future, I also see the two manually created excess plan orders, one of them fixed again. Okay, so as the integration has worked and completed, I go to the application jobs and let me do a new run. Okay, and in the new run, let me do one thing. Let me change the protected horizon. So I go to planning run profiles to show you that I have two kinds of planning run profiles. One is where I, in the switchable constraints tab, I have activated the production freeze horizon, both the production freeze horizon and the detailed planning and scheduling horizon. In the other one, which I had performed before, you see that the detailed planning and scheduling horizon was not activated yet. And now in the next one, I will use this DPS act planning profile, and the DPS horizon is activated. Means the DPS horizon will be used instead of the production freeze horizon, protecting a wider range of plant orders in the short term. Okay, then let me do the application and just copy the order run, and let's run it. But this time I run it with a different profile with the DPS active. And I schedule it. And I have to ask for your patience. The runs take 1 or 2 minutes. And while it runs, we go to the analyze supply usage, just do a refresh. And now what we can see is we see our DPS orders. We see that the DPS orders consume capacity, just like operational supply planning orders do. If an operational supply planning order of a quantity 10 consumes 10 minutes, a PPDS order, DPS order will also consume 10 minutes. So the resource consumption will be taken into account, although this is a different object, because the consumption calculation is done in IBP. And here you see the plan orders that are created on top. This the 3 excess plan orders, and you see also that one of these plan orders is we see at the moment that because we have created new plant or DPS orders, none of them has a packed quantity. Because why? Pegging has been broken. The plant orders have been recreated in IBP, so there is no pegging yet. But if the planning run is completed, hopefully it is soon. No, it is not yet. When did we start? 21. In a few seconds, it should be done. Okay, so in the next step, I expect that these plant orders will be packed. Let's go to view projected stock to see what happened here. Hopefully, the run is now completed. Yes, it is completed. Why? How do I see that? I see that one of these excess plant orders out there in the beyond the DPS horizon is now been deleted. Yes, one of the plant orders is deleted. The one which was not fixed is deleted, but within the DPS horizon here, within the PPS horizon, I had these two plant orders with 5 each, which I had split in PPDS. One of them being not fixed, but the one that was fixed was protected because it was fixed, and the other one was protected because it was within the freeze horizon. And this freeze horizon is the extended DPS horizon according to the last planning run. So this shows you how the PPDS results can be protected in the short term and an extended short term on a run-to-run basis. Okay, let's go back to the analyze supply usage. Now my pegging has been repaired by the new run, and I will see that more plant orders are connected to sales orders, except for one. This is the excess plant order, which was created without any sales order relationship, and this has no demand. So this is also cool. So this is actually what I wanted to show you. Almost one thing is left. We have also key figures. Key figures have been adapted to show also the DPS portion of overall production plant in IBP. So just wait a few seconds to refresh the web-based view, and then we will see in a minute that we have introduced so-called DPS plant order key figures, or plant order in DPS key figures. Okay, any questions so far? Emil?
Yeah, there were a couple of questions, but I would say as we're running out of time, I think we deal with them in the chat. And when something is not really fully answered, I would put it at the end, or
okay,
have it offline, that we provide the answers then per email after the call. Otherwise, we will not be able to finish your presentations.
All right.
Absolutely,
so,
I agree. Let's do it this way.
Okay, then do I have any leftovers in the slide deck? Maybe before we go on to Hansi. So here is a list of key figures that we have introduced. Okay, so a list of key figures that we have introduced. That we have introduced here, and just one remark. Very soon with the feature pack 1, feature pack 1 of S/4HANA 22, we will also allow multi-mix resources to be maintained, so we can use for them for both IBP and PPDS. So please, from FP1 on, prefer to use mixed resources in setting up IBP synchronized planning. And let me then go back to the view projected web-based planning. So this guy is still working, and then I would not like to wait for this. Just then see only the slides. I don't know why this is not working. Maybe I just give it a last try and just jump in once again. And other than that, then I would my views. So my view has vanished somehow. So I will, as this is a development system, we have some patches now, and this part didn't work. Sorry for that. And I think now it's good time to hand over to Hansi if no last question is remaining.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, so this was the full process. It started with IBP, then had an integration, and then had multiple steps in PPDS, and then we came back into IBP and did the planning run again with a different planning run profile. And this is the end-to-end process of IBP, synchronized planning core functionality. With 21, with later releases, we will not only introduce more integration modes, but we will also improve the one system feeling of IBP and PPDS. We will go into the direction of Planner's Workspace and also directly connect to PPDS from IBP, not the two logons that you have seen today. This will be much more integrated in future, and these are the next steps to take. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Bülent. So while I'm swapping to my screen and sharing it, I can only encourage you. You can ask questions. You can also do that via the audio. Just push the raise hand button, and then you can speak up, and we will answer your question over voice. Other than that, I will now share my screen. Just give me a second. I think I already do that, but I want to share the presentation above all. That we talk about past developments very, very briefly, just to frame this a little bit and create an impression at your end what we did in the last two releases. Afterwards, then also very briefly, we will show you what we will do in the next releases. And by doing that, we want to focus on release 2102, which is this quarter. And we will highlight shortly also, unfortunately, three different development topics that had been developed recently and that continue to be developed also in the future, and give you a little bit a glimpse of what has been done there. Of course, every of this topic could take the same duration of webinar presentation and demo like the past 90 minutes that you have seen with Bülent regarding synchronized production planning. So let me then do that. What you see here is a summary of order-based planning developments in Q3 and Q4 last years. You know this, we have this taxonomy 2008, so 20 stands for the year 2020, 08 stands for August, 11 stands for November. Of course, I cannot go too much into detail, so let me shortly pick, for instance, switchable constraint here on the left upper corner, which is already in use, which allows to more flexibly decide which capacity limits on which constraint types you want the planning run to take place, which you want them to take into account. By switching a constraint off, for instance, you basically do an infinite planning for this very constraint. Or let's have a look to fair share. Where is it? A little bit here in the middle, fair share for optimization. So this supports a fair distribution of available supply. So in a way that demand is partially satisfied and that so that excess supply, so too much supply, can be more fairly distributed. This functionality is also now incorporated into all order-based planning runs, optimizer runs, I must say more precisely. From the 2011 developments and from the last in Q4 last years, I could take, for instance, development cost generation. So development cost generation defines all costs based on business prioritization of customer demands, the stocking locations, and the transportation alternatives. I could talk about this, of course, in more detail and so on, and we would never end. So for the sake of timeliness, let's move on and have a look to the developments this year. So here I simply want to focus basically on 3 topics, and as said, also you see it here. We have much more. The 3 topics are, in essence, interactive planning. There we have developments on, I would call it order management or supply elements management, to create, delete, change, fix, and so on of planned orders and so on. But interactive planning is a bigger topic. I will show you a short overview afterwards. And we have then in 2105, for instance, create fixed supply in key figure, which will have also a very big customer impact. Now, as said, I want to focus on 2102 as a second topic. I will briefly talk about substitution, supersession, and then transportation resource. Each topic roughly 5 minutes. You can ask your questions, and afterwards, as said, we can also have Q&A over the line. Now, let's go to interactive planning. This slide is a mixture of what it's not only vision, it's the product direction as it was defined more than a year ago. And then maybe vision was correct. Now it's not so correct, because we have already started and we have completed first chunks of this huge topic of interactive planning. Interactive planning, what do we mean by that? For instance, if you an element of a more interactive planning, in the sense that planner users can have better visibility, shorter navigation, less keystrokes, and so on, simpler screens. So an element of that can be that planners do have the possibility to change master data, like, for instance, lot sizes or even configuration settings, and then see, as they do these changes more or less on the fly, what is the potential impact? What would be the potential impact of these changes on the planning result? And this is meant here with that box here at the right, in the middle, configuration, interactive master data changes. Also, I could talk about visibility. There we have already, and I could have shown you that on the slides before. So last year we have already delivered interactive planning functionality. We could maybe label under visibility. For instance, in a grid, in a time series view, you can imagine that this way, that you have a possibility to highlight a cell or more cells of one key figure, and by doing that, you can then navigate to the respective orders or supply elements which cause the specific value that you see in this time bucket of that key figure. Visibility, I think it's always good, but better is if then you also have the possibility to create or change orders, and that is planned that is partially also already being delivered. And that's what we mean with this box here, interactive planning on orders. So what I want to do now is I want to show you the next slide. Just show it, but not talk too much about it. But as an alternative to talk, let me be so lazy to simply show you a movie that we have done, a small video of 3 minutes, and it's about the order changes. So the possibility to create change orders, fix and unfix, or delete them directly from the view projected stock. Here we go. I hope you can hear that. I have to go to the start, and then I can relax a little bit.
In Release 2102, we've introduced interactive planning, which enables planners to manually create, change, fix, unfix, or delete certain supply elements, and apply the changes to their operative version. Let's take a look at the new options. Imagine you're
I have to stop this for a second. I see that I'm occupying the screen, which is not optimal. Okay, I think it's better now. Maybe I start from scratch. I apologize for that. We lost some seconds.
Create, change, fix, unfix, or delete certain supply elements, and apply the changes to their operative version. Let's take a look at the new options. Imagine you're a planner and you've identified a stock shortage for phone A. You know from the View Gating Factors app that this is caused by a supplier constraint for the memory component, and that the quantity affected is 200. You've contacted another supplier who has confirmed that they can handle an order at short notice. So now you want to create the additional supply element in SAP IBP, and this is where interactive planning comes in. In the View Projected Stock app, you create a new purchase requisition for the memory component. Select your supplier and enter the quantity and the date. You can also see additional attributes, such as planned delivery time, to help you make your selection. If you needed to create a stock transfer requisition or a planned order, you'd do this in the same way. In the element view, you can now see the new purchase requisition. It has been created infinitely, without any constraints. As soon as you made the change, the version toolbar changed, letting you know that you are now in simulation mode. Also, a blue marker in the element view shows which element has been changed. Other options are also available. If you wanted to unfix or fix a supply element, which controls whether or not it can be changed by a planning run, you simply deselect or select the checkbox in this column. If you wanted to delete a planned supply element, you'd simply choose the cross in this column. You can also make changes to planned supply elements. Just select the row and choose Change to enter the new details. You can check your changes in the change summary. Now you can save your changes into the operative version. With the next outbound integration, the new purchase requisition is created in the SAP S/4HANA system. To plan the whole network, you can run a planning run directly from the app. Using interactive planning, you've now solved the component shortage. Thanks for watching.
Good, then I can move on. So the second topic as a highlight of 2102 I want to talk about is transportation resource. To explain this, you need to consider that before 2102, a constraint on a resource typically meant as a resource a production resource, so a world center, a machine, and so on. So this was more relevant for factories, for plant orders, for production. What we did not have so far is the capability to define capacity limits for stock transfers or for external procurement. So now we are in the position to do that, and we can also define the necessary master data for this, and we can do that in a very detailed way. And by that, transportation demand is limited now to the available capacity of one transportation lane. This, if needed, can help you also to balance demand across multiple days. And of course, you can imagine with such a functionality now we can create a deployment planner or distribution planner can create a more feasible distribution plan. If you want to have a look here to the right to the picture, what do we see there? You see, of course, a lane with mode of transport. Rail has a different or can have a different capacity than a lane with mode of transport road. So here, for instance, the 500 pallets versus the 50 tons, what you also immediately realize, this can be defined by using different units of measures. To summarize the value here, the value we propose in the middle of the slide, this improves the results with distribution planning, as I already said, makes it more feasible. Deployment run in order-based is now more realistic. It reduces costs because you can balance better, and by that use your trucks, your vehicles, or other transportation modes more efficiently, and you optimize the choice of your transportation resources based on their actual capacity. If you want to shed an eye shortly what that means in more terms of functional capabilities of the software, you can say first, you can define the master data by freely selecting the adequate units of measure. I have already mentioned that, as you see it in the picture. You can define also conversion rates, which will be considered in the planning algorithm. And regarding the cardinality between the lanes and the resources, it's not strict. It's not only one-to-one. One-to-one is possible, but you can basically assign one resource to multiple lanes and vice versa. All this is integrated both to Excel and Fiori. And last but not least, regarding gating factors, you can display those in the app. You might know view gating factor and see them together with other bottlenecks, but you see them as transportation resources, but in direct neighborhood to the resources and their bottlenecks in production. Let's come to the last, and I want to look how much time we have. That's good. So we have left some minutes at the end, which is great. So the last topic I want to talk about is the last 2102 highlight is product substitution. So what is the intent of product substitution or interchangeability? A planner, of course, wants to plan the transition of products in advance. So this means to choose between specific substitution strategies or substitution scenarios, if you want, to ensure that supply of newly introduced products is timely, according, of course, to the planned demand. We have, in essence, in this release, started with 4 different use cases, or if you want, strategies of possible product substitution. The first 2 are discontinuation scenarios, where a product is discontinued. The first variant is with use up of the old product, and the second, logically, without use up. Then we offer discontinuation with mutual substitution, so A replaces B and vice versa. And then as a 4th use case, we have the promotion use case. The capabilities in terms of functionality, and there is more to come, is that you have, that's what you see here at the bottom, in the view projected stock, you have a new kind of requirement type, a new object, which is called a substitution order. And you have also the possibility at the beginning, of course, to define these master data in according functionality, which is integrated by a SAP IDS. Let me also say that in this release, the runs that take into account and create substitution orders are the optimizer runs. And the next run, in the next release, we will then extend this to the heuristics. Having said that, I'm now at the end of this short look into what we are currently doing and what we intend to do in the next release. So let me also roughly talk about further partner activities we want to do this year. We intend to plan a second webinar like this one, also in 2 time zones, so that everybody worldwide who is interested in IBP response and supply can participate. We will announce that shortly and send you the invitation. And as I've already said, we have every year a partner testing and training workshop. Here are the dates. And of course, if this is possible to you and if you're interested, you can participate. That it's only related to a very small fee. And those who have already participated, we plan to do this in a similar way like last year, but of course with updated content, but also with similar speakers directly from SAP development, chat support, collaterals, and so on, directly coming from us from the SAP standard development. This gives you a little bit an idea of what has been done and what is being done then this year in terms of this testing and training workshop. As said, there are 2 formats. There is for beginners more 7 days a format and 3 days for those who are already pretty knowledgeable in order-based planning or response and supply. And what we do is every time this is very open, so we share all presentation test cases, recordings, and so on to everybody. If somebody wants to have those of last year, even if they are already 6 months old, that's something we give out, and you can just send me a note and you will get those materials. And of course, when we do it this year, everybody will get system access to the SAP development test systems and get dedicated own test data and test cases, and by that can not only sit there and listen, but also actively test the functionality. Then I would say I am at the end, and we have been quite good in terms of time. We have some minutes left. That's why I would like to ask if there are questions. You can raise them in writing or just also yeah, raise hand and speak to us.
No open question from the Q&A.
Okay. Then or is there something else? Do we have questions regarding synchronized planning?
I think all questions have been answered. There was just one question where we have to come back, which was on the after the call to check with our PPDS colleagues on the PPO. So
Okay.
as of now, there's nothing to be answered, I think. But we will go through the. I think we will go through the Q&A before we really say that afterwards. So if we missed something, we will handle it after the call.
Exactly. Yeah. So you will get the collaterals from us, and by doing that, or while doing that, we will also look to those questions where we think we could still provide more information and add this to the information to the presentations and the recordings.
If there are no questions left, as one of the topics was the interactive planning, I could go back to the system and show some features out of that.
Yeah, why not? You already did so. We can use the time if there's interest. Then yeah.
Because it's a thing. It's a big topic and big achievement. In the meanwhile, it will open many possibilities. I'm not there yet. So let me share. Just use a few minutes. Okay. So what you can see here, you can create a plan order, which I have already shown. And you can also see that existing plan orders can be fixed. So my operational supply planning plan order here can be fixed. Okay, then it will be automatically fixed also in S4. It's not locally in IBP. It will fixing will be promoted. And as you see, we go into a simulation mode directly after the first change to the plan order. You see that your travel, the simulation mode is marked by marking the plan orders that you are touching, that you have touched so far. You can see that, for example, I can delete one of my DPS plan orders from IBP. I can just delete by pushing the delete button. So this order is being deleted. I can change a quantity of an IBP planned order. So operational supply planning planned order. I can mark it. Then once it's marked, it can be changed. And I say don't want to have 12 pieces of that. I want to have 12 pieces of that, and I want it 1 day later. And I can change that. I can save it in a version in a scenario, and I can discard it or I can save it. If I save it, the result is written on the database, and this can be published in the operative version to S4HANA.
That's the important point that I forgot to say. It's of course the thing that everything you do that you save into the base version will be reintegrated to S4.
Yes, I think this is the very, very basics of interactive planning to show, and hopefully you have it on your systems and you can check it out yourselves. For me personally, this is one of the biggest achievements that we have, and it will help you a lot because many customers work the interactive way. They don't want simply have planning run results. They can also fine-tune now the results.
Yeah, and this is just to add, this is possible in the projected stock view, and it's on the roadmap to have something in the time series-based key figure for overrides, for direct additions as well, but not with the 2102 release.
And even you can start a planning run from here in a review project stock, which I don't show now. Yeah.
But Ilmi mentioned is planned for 2105 currently, so it's not needed to wait too much time for that. Okay. I hear that the bell of the church here in my little town, so it's maybe for us in Germany a good time to stop.
Call it a day.
Stop the day and go into the weekend. And also with these positive and motivating outlook on what we can deliver in our product, whether it's interactive planning or synchronized planning or all the other things we mentioned today. So as said, you will get all the collaterals from us, and we are very glad to receive questions from you, and we'll answer them as best as we can. And having said that, in the name of the entire team, I want to thank you for having attended this webinar. I wish all of you, wherever you are, a good weekend, stay healthy, and hopefully we see you soon.